Hello, everyone. Lovely to see you. So as you hop on, feel free to say hello in the chat and let us know where you are tuning in from today. So today we are joined by Sensei Paul David, who will be talking to us about how we can bring mindfulness into our everyday life to reduce stress and create a more serene life, which I think is something that I would love to learn more about. Tell me about you. So Paul is a volunteer jiu-jitsu instructor and former finance project manager turned publisher who creates inspiring mental health short reads for adults and children and free guided meditations. So welcome, Paul. Really good to see you. Really interested to hear what you've got to share with us today. And with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rachel. And thanks, everybody, as you're coming in to say hello and to listen in. It's an honor. Appreciate it. So let's get right to it. I'd like to thank you all for volunteering your time. As you know, my name is Paul David, and for the past 4 years, as mentioned, but a little deeper, I've authored over 20 mental health books and over 50 mental health courses. And to be clear, I'm not a professor, and nor do I consider myself an expert on today's topic of discussion. But truthfully, I do consider myself a lifelong student of mindfulness and its related Stoic philosophies as well. And our plan for today is to introduce my definition of mindfulness and to share my story with you. And then to delve into some of the practical variations of mindfulness, coupled with a guided meditation, and then to offer an opportunity for anyone to share their perceptions of mindfulness and conclude with attempting to answer any questions that you may have. And by the way, throughout our time together today, I'm just going to try and stop this shaking here. I encourage all of you to think about what mindfulness looks like through your eyes and how it might be used in your daily routine to better serve you. So let's get started. What is mindfulness and how can it serve us? To me, mindfulness is the ability to recognize the value of the present moment. And to me, it offers the reminder that time is the most important thing that I have. And also to focus on what and who I'm grateful for in my world. And for me, it's the foundation of my ability to cultivate my happiness and find resilience in the face of uncertainty. My intent for speaking to you is to inspire us, to help inspire us to become a community of mindfulness learners. And because at the end of our time together, I hope that you'll share your thoughts with the rest of us and to help create that community of lifelong mindfulness. And before I go on with ideas of how mindfulness might serve us better, perhaps in ways worthy of testing for yourself, I'd like to begin by sharing with you my story of how and why I started using mindfulness to serve me better. In 2017, I was working as a financial services project manager for a bank in downtown Toronto, where I live. And one day, I was riding my bicycle, it's on a weekend, through a green light intersection when I heard an unusual sound. And it sounded a bit like an airplane taking off, but it was close. And my eyes scanned to my left, to notice a large moving truck was accelerating towards me. I was already in the center of the intersection when I had noticed that the truck making a left turn was headed towards me in my direction. And at first I thought nothing of it, but I quickly realized the truck was making a shallow turn towards me, and I felt threatened as the moment seemed to lag onward. And I couldn't anticipate whether the truck was going to turn into the lane in front of me or turn into the lane behind me. So I stopped for an instant to try and predict which way the truck would go. But as the milliseconds passed, it became clear to me that the truck's true path was to pass through all of the street lanes, including the center lane that I happened to be in. And at this point, I felt there was nothing that I could do to save myself. I couldn't go forward, and I couldn't go backwards, and I couldn't go left, and I couldn't go right. And in that short moment, I remember three things that happened to me. One, I accepted that I was going to be struck. And two, I felt the fear of dying, perhaps dying painfully, and with the odd sensation of missing being alive, as if I were already gone. And three, I did what came easily to me. I tried to defend myself physically. And over 20 years of Japanese jiu-jitsu came bubbling up to the surface and to my reflexes. And I did my best to protect my head and my guts by making myself as small as I could while seated momentarily on my bike. I remember the growl of the truck's engine. It sounded angry and it sounded intense to me, and like a motivated predator charging my way towards me. And just before impact, I closed my eyes and I held my breath, and I tried to tighten all the muscles in my body to try to make myself feel strong. And I felt a momentary slam come onto my head and my body. And in the time it would take to say the word ouch, there was nothing. There was just a gap in my memory. And I partially awoke on the street to find someone standing over me. And he was yelling. And it turned out that he was the driver. I thought I had to defend myself a second time. But when I tried to stand up, my world that day got dark a second time. And again, there was nothing. I passed out again. The next time I awoke to recognize a police officer speaking to me. And as my brain came back online, I realized he was asking me if I wanted an ambulance. And I must have said yes, because I soon found myself laying in hospital, and the ride over to the hospital was a bit foggy. Some of the distant chatter that seemed to come from the corners of the room began to gradually make sense to me. A voice greeted me and said, "You're very lucky. An officer happened to call you an ambulance. That's why you're here." And the nurse continued. She said, "You were in an accident. You hit your head, and we're running tests now." I felt confused, and my body was achy, and I felt heavy and useless. I was afraid to hear the test results, and I wanted to ask questions. And then I muttered what I thought was going to be a weak sounding thank you to the nurse. But when I spoke, her expression appeared to me like I was screaming at her. And I was shouting over a blaring siren of tinnitus in my mind, which I think should have scared me, but instead it made me chuckle. And the nurse crouched down to speak softly in my ear. And she said, "I was lucky, but not because of the officer's help. And not for surviving the impact of the truck." She said, "You're lucky because we just brought in someone else who had been hit by a vehicle while on a bicycle just before you arrived, and she just died. She died right down the hall during her brain scans, the same brain scans that we are running on you right now. Well, needless to say, I felt a wave of shock run through me in that moment, even by the way that she said that. I spent 2 years after that feeling like my life was on pause. And my world now consisted of seeing many doctors for my back pains and many therapists for my mind as I continued to relive the event again and again. I was and still am fortunate to have a very loving and supportive partner. And I was faced with a host of new ordeals that forced me to be mentally present to face these challenges. Though physically I felt confident that I could eventually get back in shape, mentally I could not relax. Because if I did, I was introduced to a new demon in my closet of fears. And for me, without warning, involuntary, vivid memories of the accident would send me free falling into episodes of what I call spiked physiology. Intermittently and suddenly, my heart would feel like it's beating out of my chest. The sweat would trickle from my face and armpits, and I felt the urge to hyperventilate and to throw up. It was then that I became quickly introduced to the way of mindfulness. As part of my mental recovery and part of my treatment, I became a committed student of mindfulness. I had plenty of uncomfortable opportunities to slowly break down my fear associations and my spiked physiological responses with crossing any street and then crossing some streets and then eventually crossing the street where I was hit by the truck. It was painful physically and emotionally for a long time. But eventually, the pain seemed a bit more like a challenge, and my condition kind of like a physical scar, never fully disappearing, but acknowledging the scar as a symbol of survival, but nothing more than that. And during my recovery, one day I asked myself, what if I reinvented me? Since staying relaxed for too long allows the onset of traumatic memories to proliferate, what would happen if I let the trauma just pass without trying to understand it or solve it? What if I gave myself bigger targets to aim for over the next 2 years? What would happen then? Well, I accepted my own challenge. I decided I didn't want to be a project manager for the sake of it defining my identity any longer, or just to be a project manager in that space. I decided that I wanted to be something else. I wanted to do a little more. My occupational therapist suggested that I listen to meditations on a website called Insight Timer. And soon I thought I could create my own meditations and mental health courses, sharing much of what I was learning. And so I began to do that. I even wrote and published a few educational books for kids and a couple of short self-help books for young adults. And to my surprise, I was rewarded more and more as people responded to my work positively, and my motivation compounded. More than a year went by, and in that time I earned a private pilot's license and taught myself how to pass the LSAT law school entrance exam. And I wrote it, and I got a pretty good score. And as I watched more and more, as people positively responded to my meditations and my courses and so on, found myself pulled, not towards law or aviation, but pulled in the direction of seeking self-improvement and accepting humility and hoping for wisdom and sharing the self-development systems that I've learned and I still seek along the way. Then the pandemic came, and my father had unexpectedly passed away. I was crushed. I was crushed by my father's passing, but inspired to add another layer of curious challenge during the pandemic lockdown. And I asked myself, what can I accomplish before the end of this pandemic lockdown? How do I want to come out of this? My partner and I had dreamed about living in Costa Rica for many years. I found a mentor to share with me his experience on how he had become a Costa Rican expat. And I had created many systems to help us avoid many of the pitfalls. And eventually, we bought and now rent out our dream home, where I've become obsessed with surfing, and I've become obsessed with surfing with my dog, who is sleeping beside me right now. Maybe he'll say hello at some point. And to end this part of my story, today, the art of mindfulness continues to help teach me how and when to be grateful for the people and experiences in my life, and helps me release tendencies for overthinking and giving power to doubt. And now to move on. So, ladies and gentlemen, and seekers of wisdom, today we embark on a journey into the realm of mindfulness. What I think is a profound practice that I believe holds the key to unlocking our true potential and finding tranquility in the chaos of modern life. And in the next phase of this talk now, I'll invite you to explore a little bit of mindfulness with me as we delve into some of its applications and its practicality. But first, let's define mindfulness a second time with a little more depth. In its essence, mindfulness to me is the art of being fully present in the moment, with an open and non-judgmental awareness of our thoughts and our feelings and our sensations and our surroundings. And it's a state of consciousness, conscious awareness that allows us to observe our experiences without getting caught up in them, thereby enabling us to respond to life's challenges with a little more clarity, a little more composure, a little more motivation and compassion. And now, how do we integrate mindfulness into our everyday activities? I believe the answer lies in cultivating a mindset of mindfulness in all that we do, whether it's eating, whether it's exercising, working, or simply interacting with others. One of the most accessible and effective techniques for enhancing mindfulness is mindful breathing. And by paying attention to our breath, we can anchor ourselves in the present moment. We can help to calm our minds, and we can regulate our emotions with a little more intention and a little more confidence. Mindfulness also extends to the way that we manage our internal dialogue and our emotions. And through practices such as mindful meditation, we can learn to observe our thoughts and feelings without being consumed by them. And I think that this empowers us to break free from the grip of negative thinking patterns and cultivate a greater sense of self-awareness and emotional resilience. But mindfulness is not just an individual practice. It's about building a community of contentment by fostering meaningful connections and showing those connections respect with others and practicing mindful listening. And I think that we can deepen our understanding of empathy and thereby enriching our relationships and our lives through it. Furthermore, mindfulness can be applied to goal setting and to progress tracking, two of my favorites. And by setting clear intentions and regularly checking in with ourselves mindfully, we can stay aligned with our values and our aspirations and navigate the inevitable ups and downs of life with grace and I think with perseverance. So now, let's explore some strategies for letting go of frustration and worry and refocusing on the present calmly. Firstly, we can practice grounding techniques, as mentioned, like mindful breathing, focusing on our senses to anchor ourselves in the present moment. Secondly, we can cultivate a mindset of acceptance and compassion towards ourselves and to others, recognizing the impermanence and change that are inherent aspects of life. Thirdly, we can practice cognitive reframing. That's challenging negative thoughts and replacing them with more balanced and empowering perspectives. And fourthly, we can engage in physical activities such as mindful walking or yoga to release tension and restore a sense of equilibrium. And we can cultivate a sense of gratitude, which is my favorite, and appreciation for the present moment, recognizing the beauty and abundance that surrounds us. So now, let's explore mindfulness perspectives on accepting change and challenges as opportunities for learning. And in the words of the renowned mindfulness teacher, Jon Kabat-Zinn, which is one of my favorite quotes here, he says, "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." As a surfer myself, I couldn't resist putting that in my talk today. And by embracing change and challenges with an open and curious mind, we can cultivate resilience. We can cultivate growth. And we can discover new strengths and insights that we never knew we had with a calmer, clearer mind. Similarly, I also believe that the mindful commitment to personal excellence involves embracing the journey of self-discovery and self-improvement with dedication and with humility. And finally, in this section, let's consider the mindfulness and Stoic perspective of the inevitability of death. Now, while contemplating our mortality may seem morbid and unsettling, it can serve as a powerful reminder of the preciousness and the fragility of life. And by embracing the reality of our mortality, we can cultivate a sense of urgency and a sense of compelling purpose, motivating us to use our time and our talents wisely and to live each moment with intention as well as integrity. And as for testing mindfulness disciplines in our daily routines, I would suggest starting small, starting with manageable practices that can be easily integrated into our lives. So, for example, setting aside a few minutes each day for mindful breathing or for meditation, or my favorite, practice mindful eating by savoring each bite. Overall, to me, mindfulness is not just a fleeting moment of tranquility, it's a way of being. And it's a path to cultivating fulfillment, the fulfillment I think that we all deserve. And I believe the best way to learn about mindfulness is to do it, is to practice it. So now, I'd like to share and lead us through a short guided meditation on mindful relaxation. So feel free to participate in this or just listen. Whatever you feel most comfortable with doing or observing is fine. Let's get started. See if you can make yourself even more comfortable than you already are. Close your eyes. Allow the muscles in your face and your neck and the muscles in your shoulders to fall. Help relax your body and mind by just listening to your breathing. Breathe very deeply and breathe very slowly. Quiet your mind of any questions. Quiet your mind of any responsibilities, of any thoughts, of any desires, just by breathing deeply. And also by staying relaxed and still. Take a moment and appreciate yourself. Appreciate yourself for making the time to listen to this meditation. Take a deep breath in and out. Let's begin. The purpose of mindfulness in this meditation is to peacefully focus your awareness on the present moment. And by passively and calmly acknowledging your feelings, acknowledging your thoughts and physical sensations, not by trying to control them, but by letting them pass, by allowing them to pass you by in order to help gain better relaxation or objectivity. Take a slow, deep breath in and out. First, simply unpacking your emotions makes it easier to be at peace with yourself by listening to them without trying to solve them. This is done by asking yourself simple, mindful questions. If you ask these questions with honest sincerity, you will eventually get an answer. However, the answer may not come right away from your mind, and that's okay. Take another deep breath in and out. Repeat after me, either aloud or in your mind. What, if anything, am I feeling emotionally right now? What, if anything, am I feeling emotionally right now? It's okay if you're not sure. In your mind, give this feeling a specific and unique shape and color. And make this shape and color anything you want. It could be large or it could be small. The color could be bright or it could be cool. And for now, please memorize this emotional shape. Emotional shape. Take another deep breath in and out. Second, your thoughts and physical sensations can also be mindfully unpacked. Repeat after me. What am I thinking now? What am I thinking now? And if the answer is nothing, that's great. But if you are pondering anything or not, then give your present thoughts or lack thereof another specific and unique shape and color. When you have this clear in your mind, please memorize this thoughtful shape. Thoughtful shape. Take another deep breath in and out. Third, the careful way that you listen to your physical body can help prevent pernicious injuries by knowing your limits. To do this, you want to be as meticulous as possible when accepting feedback from your mindful question. Please repeat after me. What is my body feeling now and where? What is my body feeling now and where? Like before, memorize this feedback as another unique shape and color, as a physical shape. Physical shape. Take a deep breath in and out. As a result of gathering this feedback from your emotions and from your thoughts and your physical body, let's focus now on what you may need. Calmly and patiently, please repeat after me. What do I need? What do I need? Take another deep breath in and out. Allow this question to sink in peacefully by not expecting an answer right away or at all. The purpose of this question is to accept whatever feedback may arise in the moment or later on and let it pass. Let's ask again. Please repeat after me. What do I need? Maybe it's something simple, or something private, or something you need to do that you've been avoiding. Whatever it is, it's important to let the answers arrive organically. Take a deep breath in and out. Finally, let's try a mental exercise. Imagine yourself sitting alone on a bench in a city park. The sun is shining. The temperature is warm. Picture large trees and small green grassy hills surrounding you now, providing a feeling of beauty and comfort. Now imagine the bench that you sit on is adjacent to a nearby sidewalk. Start to recall your emotional, thoughtful, and physical color shapes that we spoke of earlier. And together, let's conjure your shapes and your colors and have them pass you by as they would people walking down the sidewalk in the park. Take a long and slow, deep breath in and out. In your mind, imagine your emotional shape silently coming into view from the left and is heading towards you peacefully on the sidewalk. Your emotional shape passes within inches of your face and slowly exits out of view to the right. Take a deep breath in and out. Now imagine your thoughtful shape and your physical shape silently coming into view on the sidewalk from the right. And like before, one by one, they pass within inches and slowly exit out of view to the left. Take another deep breath in and out. And please take a moment to appreciate and thank yourself for the discipline and the patience that you've shown throughout this guided meditation. Thank you for taking the time to begin to internalize the concept of mindful relaxation. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes now. And if they were already open, that's fine too. And let's leave this meditation with these words. It's a great day to be alive. Welcome back. And before I conclude this chat, I'd like to ask the group a question, if I may. How do you define mindfulness in your own words? And would anyone like to share your thoughts on how might mindfulness disciplines, that from what you've learned so far, or from what you know, serve you during your daily routines? Or perhaps how you already practice mindfulness now? And on this Zoom call, I'm not sure how to enable any interaction, but if you have any thoughts, feel free to share them.
So if anyone
And
wants
while
to
you're
put something in the chat or even raise your hand and come off mute and share, either is welcome.
Sure. So I can't see anything that anyone's writing right now, and definitely thinking. But Rachel, if anyone has any comments to share, I'd sure like to hear them if they have them. And if not, that's fine too.
Sure, I'll share. Robert here in California.
Hi, Robert.
You've kind of said it. I mean, it's for me, mindfulness is being in the present and just observing, being an observer without any kind of judgment, and just watching, watching it.
Simple enough.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any way that you think that you can use that simple concept in your daily routines that might help you in any way, that might calm you in any way? Is there something specific you or anyone else would like to share about an example of how to use what we're talking about?
It helps in your daily activity. I can easily slip into judgment, slip into anger or resentment, and so that kind of is a checkpoint to what you talked about, getting rid of the negativity and getting back to a central point of relaxation.
Thank you. Anyone else like to share, write, or speak just before we conclude? Is there anything, Rachel, did anyone write anything that...
Yeah, so Steve mentioned that his definition is word for word the same as yours, and that Steve tries to be mindful in every waking moment.
Wow.
Yeah,
every waking
quite
moment.
intense, Steve.
Oh my.
Quite ambitious.
I think yeah, Steve, you should be the one giving the speech, not me, for sure. Thanks for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if anyone else would like to write anything, I'll just conclude in the meantime, and I just have another paragraph or so just to read out quick, and we can come back to anything else that you may be writing right now. So to conclude, I'd like to thank everyone in a few ways. Thank you for listening to my story. And thank you for being present during our talk of mindfulness and participating in our guided meditation. And thank you for sharing or thinking about what mindfulness is for you and how it might serve you day to day. I'm grateful for the chance to speak to all of you today. Thanks, Allison. And I'll see you next time. And please remember, it's a great day to be alive. Anything else anybody would like to say or share?
I just wanted to share, Paul, thank you for that practice and for sharing your powerful story. Um, I've never done that before with the visualizing my emotions and thoughts as a shape or color. So that was really interesting. And I could see as when you got to the bit about seeing it as a shape walking past you as you sit on the bench, I could see that I was sort of disidentifying with that. By seeing it in that way, I was like disidentifying from those thoughts and from those emotions. So I could see how that could be helpful, because that's part of, I guess, the internal struggle that we often have, is when we feel like we are those emotions or we are those thoughts, and we kind of cling to them very tightly. So it was yeah, it was quite powerful to do that visualization. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Well said.
Yeah. Another thing I was curious about as well, you mentioned, I like when you said about mindfulness being not just like a personal practice, being actually something that you can utilize to build a community of contentment. I thought that was really lovely. And I suppose it's something that's often missed. You know, obviously we come to mindfulness, I think, often through our own individual journeys of struggle, and it's very empowering, but it can also be isolating, the journey, the sort of inner journey. So I think it is really important to know that it can be a tool for connecting with others and building community. I was just curious, is there like any way that for you that's been helpful in terms of bridging the inner practice with the outer and community?
Oh, wow. Great insight and great question. Oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you for that. The bridge, the nexus for me is nature. So I would say the simplest way to answer that question is I think about who I love and who loves me. And in reaching out with those people, I find it easiest and most natural, I think, just as being a human being, to connect with nature with them at the same time. So I mentioned this dream home that I've been cooking up with my partner actually for over 10 years. I left that part out. And when we got there, I started inviting some of these people to join me there. And I just found it very natural, very easy to take a quick walk over to the ocean, just look at it. That's it. And every once in a while, a word would squeak out here and there. I'd say things like, you know, I'm grateful I woke up this morning, and I'm grateful that you did too. And I'm actually amazed and marveled with where we are and what it took for us to get here, and the time and the energy that had to all come together for us to just be here and to not have to do or think about anything but what would be the chances of this, you know, and then to just let all that go. And so definitely the moments of silence and moments of curiosity come and go, but they all seem to surround me anyway in my life about reaching out to the people that love me and that I love around nature. That's how I bridge that gap between the mindfulness within me and the mindfulness in my community.
Love that. Thank you. Yeah, I find nature is a really powerful, especially applying, you know, that presence in nature, because it's really amazing, you know, just like being here and that sense of interconnectedness. When you know, when I look at a tree, I feel that I'm not just this, you know, little me, you know, I'm part of this whole, and I really like the idea of kind of enjoying that, but like we're in unison with others, and having that gratitude for nature, and also the connectedness of the human beings that you're around. That's really useful. So thank you.
Well, it's merely just, you're welcome, but it's merely just a reflection of who we are. Just, I think as mammals, I think that we're most comfortable when we connect. And if anything, whoever was locked down from the pandemic might have something to relate about that. Is that I think, given the chance, we have the programming, I think, within us to just naturally be a community of mindful people. And I think that the connection is most strengthened when we try to not control it or to even facilitate it. We just allow ourselves to be the species that we are.
Yeah, power in allowing, which is very can be very opposite to the programming, the having to do things and make things happen. But actually it can be a lot easier. Yeah, I like that. Thank you. So I'll just check the chat.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions? I haven't asked for questions yet, so any?
Don't be shy.
Or be shy, that's okay.
Or be shy, yeah, allow the shyness.
Yeah, be shy.
And
any
still
shy
say
questions?
something.
Yeah, any shy questions are welcome too, so.
Alison says, I have found that mindfulness helps to highlight that we all struggle in some way, want to suffer less, and that this is common of all of us. This creates community in some way. Very true.
I agree.
Alison.
I agree. Thank you.
Another question actually that came up, if no one else has any, was around you mentioned the sort of post-traumatic kind of the sensations, and I can't remember the words that you used, but you were having difficulty obviously post the accident, and then you mentioned kind of using mindfulness and as a way to sort of allow it and stop like resisting what you were experiencing. And I just wondered what actually helped you to do that. So obviously mindfulness itself, but I think some people would struggle to just kind of just allow it or just observe it. So I was just wondering, was there anything else, or what really helped you to achieve that so that you could move past that reaction?
So if we're asking what helped me move past that, well, first of all, I had help. I had a community of mindfulness people. I had various flavors of therapists. I had one therapist that would encourage me to physically distract myself by finding something cold to touch that's physically freezing. And in our sometimes challenging and long winters in Toronto, Canada, there was ample opportunity to find something cold. Just take a walk outside. I had another therapist that had a more pure, mindful approach, which was to purposefully attempt, this was quite hard for me, to purposefully try to desensitize myself by allowing her to expose me to pictures of similar accidents and videos of them. It was quite intense, actually. But in starting off easy and doing more and more of it, it definitely didn't feel good. But looking back, it was good for me because she didn't fully articulate it, but what she was doing was she was giving me the chance to face my fears, face my anxieties, and let them go. I would see the pictures and the short videos and then turn them off. And in physically doing that, it became, I wouldn't say easier, but it became more relatable to do that in my mind because it was happening in my mind anyway, whereby the imagery was getting turned on, but couldn't be turned off. So to answer your question, I started to make the connection between the physical turning off of the exposure that I could control physically, doing the same in my mind. And I gave it a name and I called it mindfulness, which isn't my name, but I would say those two interactions kind of helped quite a bit. Definitely there was power in turning first the physical exposure into more the mental, emotional, and relating the two as within my control just as easily as shutting off the screen physically. I could do the same in my mind.
Okay, so it sounds like it was quite a gradual process of sort of gradually sort of becoming more able to tolerate and be within, sort of create space between you and those images and actions.
In fact, I remember once I graduated from the screen version of that, it came time to actually physically get out and to do that. And in realizing that I, you know, in the grand sense of coming to the conclusion that mindfulness is not a total fix-all of everything, just like life is not a fix-all for anything. There are no guarantees for anything. It's just a natural tool that I can make part of me that I feel that I could control, because it could give me a sense of peace and calmness if I just let that skill happen. So really what I did was I kind of took it to another level. I waited for a rainy night, many rainy nights, in the middle of the night, and I would get up late at night, and kind of like a zombie, I would walk the street where I was injured in the rain and at night, because I was trying to convince myself that this was another day. And nothing says more like this is another day than the exact opposite look and feel that night on a rainy night versus a sunny day when I was struck. And I just, like an incantation, kept saying to myself, you're safe, you're safe, relax, you're safe. And nobody's driving in my neighborhood on rainy nights at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I did that quite a bit, and that helped. It helped drive in another layer of the mindfulness to verbalize that I'm safe, and that I choose to control this feeling of safety. And through that, I'll build confidence. But having this experience is, like I mentioned, kind of like a scar. The mindfulness won't allow me to forget, but it is my ally.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's helpful for people to know as well, that it's that mindfulness isn't a cure-all, and also that, you know, you might try mindfulness to kind of overcome something traumatic in your life, and you might find that it doesn't initially work, and actually maybe you do need some additional help from a therapist, or trying other modalities. So, and that it is a process, as we've seen through your example. So yeah, thank you.
Wow, way to sum it up. Thank you for the language, powerful language in that. That's great. I appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing the story. Very powerful. So if anyone would like a tool to answer any questions before we say goodbye, then please pop them in the chat or unmute yourself. In the meantime, I'm just going to pop some links for Paul's free mental health ebooks and guided mindfulness journal. I'll just pop that in the chat so you can get that if you'd like. Other than that, I just want to mention before we close, we are having a really important event in June, which is around men's mental health and well-being. So if anyone has any, children, family members, friends who are males, I would just urge you to share this link with them. It's a really important event. It's a conference from the Men and Boys Compassion Initiative working group of the Global Compassion Coalition. So please do share and attend. Really important stuff. Other than that, thank you so much, Paul, for coming. It's been really insightful to journey with you, and I hope to see you again in the future. And thank you all for coming also. Thanks, Alison.
Thank you. Thanks, Allison. And thanks, Rachel, for having me. And thanks, Joel, our technical person in the background there. Thank you, Pam.
Joel.
Thanks, everybody, really, for it's been a long talk. Thanks for hanging in there. I appreciate your time. I think everybody's time is precious, and I'll see you guys next time.